Hello, this is Steve Webster from Dido. Welcome to this month's Total Care webinar. We will be discussing Google Apps admin solutions today. So once again, thank you for attending. And this webinar is being recorded for playback. Before we get started, I would like to review the Gotowebinar instructions. You can enter your questions underneath the questions within the panel. Here, enter a question for staff, which is the preferred way. Another alternative is you have a hand raise symbol where we can verbally bring you into the conversation to ask your question. And also, I have muted everyone for this broadcast to ensure the quality of the recording. So I do encourage you to ask your questions along the way, and as I take moments in between the slides, I'll take a peek and try to answer those questions. Let's get started. Why Dido? Well, Google produces the product and Dido provides the services. What services? Well, we perform project management tasks, technical configuration, training, communication, and change management. We offer total care support as a service. And we also do custom apps development. Also, I would like to let you know that Dido is a Google Apps Authorized Reseller. We have been invited and have been set up at the Google I/O Sandbox, where Jim McNellis, our leader, has done a presentation there. And we are also a Pastini Authorized Reseller as well. So remember, Google does the products, we come through with the services to create a great solution for you. Today's agenda. We're going to cover 4 areas today. One is Google Help, the new look. Customize help desk text. The blog. We're going to go over Dido's Google Apps experts and how do I use and encourage comments and feedback. Thirdly, user management. How can I troubleshoot or support my end users from the admin control panel? And we're going to finish up our time today with what are some common issues or tips. For example, signing out users. Let's say a user has lost their device and you're concerned about someone getting access. We're going to talk about how to remotely sign them out. Locating known issues and what's new webinar archives. All right, Google Mail Help, a new look. Recently, Google has redone the cosmetics of their Google Mail Help. And we're going to go over some of this in a little demonstration. And then we're going to show you this organization help desk link, how you can customize the content on the other end. So let's go ahead and go into my Dido test account here. It's the admin Dido LLC. And if we click on the gears, this is where we can access Mail Help. And one of the things I want to show you here is the Google Apps Learning Center. So let's go ahead and click on that. And what you can see is it's taking us to this learngoogleapps.com, and in this case it's zooming in on the Gmail portion of it. And so this is highlighted here. And what Google is now doing, they're consolidating their help within this particular site. And depending on what service you're using, and Google Apps will take you to that applicable web page. So here we have some information. Some of it's been updated, some of it's the same. We have the overview section, quick starts for our end users especially, and if you're deploying, we've got switching from another mail system, mobile setup, some videos, tips and tricks are extremely helpful, and information for administrative assistance as well, and frequently asked questions. Now before I get into the organization help desk, I would like to take a moment here to break this up with a poll question. So let me set that up for us now. The poll question will be, do you believe your users are taking advantage of the built-in help section in Gmail? So let me launch that so you can respond to it. And that should be on your screen now. So if you could take a few moments here, and we'll close the poll. A few more moments here. Okay, about 90% of you have voted so far. A couple more seconds. I'll close it. Okay, it looks like as I close this, we're going to see a split between there's a help section, and maybe I need to double click. So let me close that and share it with you. So it's interesting to see that out of our group here, that only 11% says yes, nothing better than free help. So this is where it's encouraging to direct our fellow associates in our organizations to go ahead and seek help and learn from these online resources. All right, well, thank you very much. Let's continue on with our webinar training session. Okay, let me go to my slide and advance to the next one. And here we have a customized help link area. And if I show you this, the organization's help desk link, if I click on that, you will see that there is an actual customized text here. I just want to make sure that everyone was aware of where that is performed at. So if we go into, according to our slide, domain settings and general, and we wait for the domain settings to show up, and there's the general. And if we scroll down within the user support area, this is where you can type in your personal or customized information. So when someone clicks on Gmail help and clicks that link, or one or the other Google Apps help features, they're taken here. So for example, I notice I got too many periods at the end of my sentence here. Once I edit inside the box, the Save Changes now appear. So I'll click Save Changes, and I get a confirmation your settings have been saved. So if I go back to the help and click on Organization's Help Desk, I see it got rid of that extra period. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, we have a growing blog that we're calling Google Apps Experts. And we do maintain this blog. So one of the things I would like to address with everyone is a couple things. One is, how do I, as an administrator or end user for that matter, utilize the Dido blog? Well, most of our audience are administrators, and frankly, you are the most active when it comes to information like this, technical stuff. Well, the blog has, we put things in there like new release information, the what's new stuff. We may put in workflow suggestions. Anything that can increase your productivity, we try to put in there. So as you go out and explore our blog in this case, we always encourage you to pass along to other people within your organization. And the other part of this is, how do I, as an administrator, encourage comments and feedback on blog posts from end users? Well, before I do that, let's go ahead and go into our blog. And as that displays, I'll give it a moment or two. In fact, we've had a recent entry here today, in fact, of what's new in Google Apps. And it's like any other blog. It just has a posting after posting. And off to the right, we have an archive. And we also have search. So, for example, let's say I want to search on something called app script and click search. I get a list of, I do get a couple of listings here, one of which is creating custom functions in Google Spreadsheets. This was posted back in July. And in this case, instead of text and screenshots, we are leveraging a video. And as you notice, we try to get feedback with questions at the end of our blog posts. And the reason why we want to do that is we want to know what you are experiencing with the Google Apps Suite. Because as we get your feedback, we can in turn create new blog entries that are most appealing or most knowledgeable for you. So we want to make sure that you're aware of this resource. Okay, this now transition into another poll question around this topic. So let me bring that up. And what I'm going to ask is, what percentage of your users stay up to date on new technology by using blogs or forums or newsletters? So let me go ahead and launch that poll question because I'm kind of curious where we fall in here. And that is now available. So please take a moment and enter your opinion here. Okay, it looks like about 82% of us have voted thus far. Let's give it a few more seconds before I close it. Okay, a couple more seconds. And I will now close it. And I'll share the results. So what percentage of users stay up to date on this new technology via blogs, forums, and so forth? It looks like out of the choice of 25%, 60% of you have said about 25, and 50% is 30. So that's where about we are. So there's great opportunities based on this little polling sample to encourage our users to do that. Now, one way of doing that is perhaps yourself as an administrator sign up for some sort of monthly email or weekly email or even daily for that matter of what's new from other blog posts or ours, for example, and then simply pass that along to the entire organization. That's one thing that we do internally to stay up to date. Well, thank you very much for doing that. So let me hide that now. Let's go back to our slide deck. Okay, let's talk about admin support within the admin control panel, as well as an approach to general support. Now, within the console, we have a support tab, and that's where I want to go now. So let me go back to my Manage This Domain. And here's our support tab. Now, if we look at this as far as maybe like first line of defense is one way of saying it, I suppose. It would be ideal, especially after seeing some of these poll results, is to find out ways to get our users engaged into things like the Google Apps Learning Center or going into the online help that's available. So let's say that somebody has a question on the recently new page level permissions within sites. Do you want them to contact you first? No, I would encourage them to first go to the online help that's available in sites and to find the information there. Or if they're staying abreast with blogs and newsletters and so forth, they'll find the instructions from that. So it seems to me we could be more productive if we can push the resource centers onto our associates. So for example, if I click on the Google Apps Learning Center here, We'll see it's laid out pretty nicely. Videos, announcements, what's new, what's going on, and so forth. And if you're starting off, how to get started. Now let's talk about the next level, online support as administrator. Well, we have things like the Admin Help Center and status dashboard and so forth. So one of the ways that we troubleshoot is if we get a question, and sometimes we have to think, okay, I'm getting an issue from one user. Is it a user count specific? Is it the certain type of device that's being used? Is it a networking issue? Is it more broad? Does it go all the way up to a Google issue? Well, one way to go through that process of elimination, of course, is the app status dashboard. So, for example, Google Mail had an entry here. So if someone is asking for help, it's possible to click on this. In this case, even if we get something later than, in this case, 8:30, someone could come in and say, hey, I got this problem, and maybe it's midnight and it's urgent for them to respond to it. Well, if you go to the app status dashboard, you'll see that there's a note at 10 p.m. and it was supposedly resolved. So it's a great resource. Okay, let's go on. Let's go on to our next slide. All right, I want to spend some time here. We're doing very good with time. Let's see, how to remotely sign out users. In the control panel, reset the sign-in cookies for a given user. So as we go back to our control panel, okay, so let's build a use case. Let's say our buddy here, Clint Eastwood, lost his laptop. And it's like, well, okay, that's a bummer, but you also have to realize, well, wait a minute, that laptop probably has cookies and things like that, and they could gain access to our domain. So what you can do is click on this particular user that's reported the problem, and you can force a log out and reset these cookies. But before doing that, let me click on the Learn More. So again, here's a use case. A user's lost their computer or mobile device. So basically, I just want to highlight a couple things. It does have the effect of logging out that user from all their current sessions. But even after we click on this reset sign-in cookies, and we do get a confirmation that indeed it has been signed out, you need to be aware of this. It can take up to 30 minutes to log out the user from the current mail. So if you're going to do a test after this webinar and you realize it's not working, it's because you got to give it some more time. But it will perform the sign out for you. So all we have to do is click Reset Sign-in Cookies here. And we do get the confirmation up here. This user has been signed out of all sessions, which really means within 30 minutes they'll be signed out of all sessions. And there's also a link in the Learn More of what to do for even mobile devices as well. Okay. Locating known issues. Known issues can also, we can get to that in a couple different ways, but for the sake of this webinar, I just supplied the link here. So from here, we can scroll down, and we'll see known issues here. And I just wanted to say that this is organized in a nice fashion now, because in one web page we see known issues by these different categories. Administration in this case, mail delivery, billing, email clients and mobile devices, user services, and actions if it's not listed there, but also recent fixes. Because now sometimes we may get questions or issues reported, and it would be nice to know if they're recently fixed, as of yesterday or something like that. So instead of submitting a new request to Google and say, hey, I got this problem. If we just take a look at known issues, we may see it was actually fixed the day before or something. So that's very important to be aware of these known issues. And again, the app status dashboard is also helpful. And what's new in Google Apps? Webinar Archive. So if we click on this link, we can review recent updates. Now, as administrators, you have a choice of when to allow these new updates to come into your domain. And of course, there's a release schedule for that. Like, for example, up here, we have the release calendar. So I'm doing a quick sidebar here. And depending on if you signed up for the rapid release track or schedule and so forth, will determine when these get rolled out to you. And there's a calendar that maintains this information for us. Let's go back to the webinar archive because, let's face it, we're all busy. And sometimes we just don't have time to be proactive with information. But there's an opportunity to still learn of what has been rolled out. Okay, so I just want to make sure that everyone was aware of the archive. So for example, in August, if I click View the Presentation here, you see the presentation come up, a little agenda, and as you can see right here, Google Apps Control Panel. Control Panel is accessed by administrators, so it's very applicable in this situation. So for example, here's one, create groups in primary and secondary domains. Administrators can blah, blah, blah. Administrators can enable sending of read receipts for the domain. So perhaps some of you may be aware that it's now available, but from an administrative standpoint, there is you can have your own policy to say, no, even though it's available, I don't want it. So by default, that's clicked, I believe. So you have the opportunity to enable that for everyone in your organization, as well as people outside your organization by entering those emails if it's appropriate. There's even a checkbox to prompt the user for each read receipt if you deem that necessary, as well as allow email read receipts to be sent. So the point is, it's worth going in after the fact as well, instead of just being proactive, to get educated on these new features and how they may relate to you as an administrator. So I encourage all administrators to review the archives if you haven't had a chance to be proactive with it. Okay, I see it's only about 2:27, and I was hoping to finish up early because there is a couple blog entries and announcements that have just come out. But before I do that, I don't see any questions, so it's pretty exciting news. So let me go ahead and show you that news that just recently came out. One of which is using Gmail, Calendar, and Docs without an internet connection. So this is now available as of today if you use Google Chrome. It doesn't work within the Google Chrome framework, but within the Google Chrome latest stable version. Until other browsers are supporting HTML5 and some background features, right now you have to use Chrome for this. So I just want to bring to your attention that you can go yourself to the Google Enterprise blog today to see the announcement if you haven't been receiving these. But see, this is an example of what we're talking about in today's webinar. You could receive these as an administrator or someone within your team and then push it out to the enterprise so everyone is up to date. So there's instructions of where else to go with this announcement today. And it's not just Gmail, it's Calendar and Google Docs. And they do mention that with Google Docs, they're not yet at a level of editing offline, but that's still being worked on. In fact, it's right here. Offline editing isn't ready yet, but it's on their plate to do. And there was another announcement today that just came out. This is regarding printing. Perhaps you've heard of the Cloud Connect printer capability. Well, now FedEx now has an option when people can always upload documents from their local hard drive. Well, now FedEx has announced a partnership here where you can also choose from a Google Docs. So you can choose a Google Docs, which isn't necessarily on your hard drive, and you can now perform printing services directly through FedEx through that way as well. And as we go back to our slides, the next steps here, well, you can stay up to date on the latest Google Apps features through youtube.com at our Dido LLC channel. We have Twitter, we have Facebook links, and of course the Dido blog that we went over briefly today. And of course, we wanted to be on the lookout for our next month's invite for our next free webinar. So before we end this recording and this session today, I was wondering if there's any questions that I may ask or that I try to answer for you. And you can do that by typing your question into the questions box on your webinar panel. Okay. All right. Well, I thank you for your participation in our free webinar, and we look forward to serving you next month. Thank you, and everybody have a great day.